From the Opupco studios, it's time for Thunder Thursday, our extended look at Thunder basketball. And basketball is back. And you know how I know that? Because we're here by ourselves.
Somebody's gone. Somebody's missing.
Eric Horn out on the West Coast for the Thunder's opening set of games. Already been to Golden State, now in LA for the Friday game against the Clippers. So it's just me, Jenny Carlson, here with fellow columnist Barry Trammell to talk a little Thunder. But game under their belts, Barry. An opening night loss to the Clippers, to the Warriors, 108-100. No Russell Westbrook, no Andre Robertson. We knew that. Steven Adams did play, but let's talk first about the start of that game, Barry. If you're gonna have tip-off at 10, just say it's 10. Don't make me sit there watching the ring ceremony and think we're getting close, and you're really 20 minutes away. Come on, NBA.
Well, I didn't mind the start time. I minded sitting through the ring ceremony. They should have done some sort of split screen, or the way ABC, ESPN, can give you two different games at once. Let everybody in America, besides the state of California, watch something else besides that Warriors ring ceremony, please. Please.
There was a baseball game going on. They could have
all
split
kinds
screen.
of stuff. They could have put the fuzz and the
The white
blank,
noise.
yeah, a blank screen with the national anthem. Anything.
All right, so we're anti-late start, anti-ring ceremony. All right, we've made that clear. But once the game started, I thought it was an interesting opener because we knew that the Thunder was going to be without their best defensive player in Andre Robertson, and that's tough sledding against the Warriors. But then to find out Russell Westbrook's out, it felt like to me a recipe for a Warriors blowout, and it was anything but, Barry. What did you come away from that game thinking about this Thunder team after one game?
Well, it's one game, but I was encouraged by their grit. They had a chance when you're shorthanded, playing without your star, your superstar, and you're playing a team as volatile, explosive as the Warriors, and they get on a roll. That can go away. 11-point lead can become 21 real quick. Thunder never let that happen. They stayed tight. Actually, took a lead there in the second half. We're tied with 9 minutes to go. We're within 2 with 2 minutes to go. So I thought they played really tough. That's encouraging. Yeah. Defense was awful in the first 5 minutes, but after that they played really good defense. Kevin Durant had a really nice game, but they made him work hard for those shots. Curry got loose and went crazy early, but they ended up doing a good job collectively on the Warriors. So without Robertson to play that good of a defense, I think is very encouraging.
Yeah, and I thought, Barry, defensively that, Dennis Schröder, who obviously started in Westbrook's place at the point guard spot, his defense has been called suspect or worse from his days in Atlanta. And he's no defensive stopper. But I was frankly heartened and encouraged by what I saw to him defensively. I thought he was okay in a lot of situations. Now, it is tough. You're dealing with Steph Curry. You're dealing with, some really great offensive players on the perimeter. So you're going to get beat every once in a while. But he was actually better than I thought he would be defensively, and he was pretty good offensively too. I
liked what I saw out of Schröder. It was a tough situation for him. He's stepping in on it. It's a new team. He's taking over for Westbrook for a limited amount of time, 1 or 2 games probably. So it's not an ideal situation, but I liked what I saw. He's going to really help this team be coming off the bench. I think, although you never know how much he'll play with Westbrook, but yeah, no, his defense I thought was shaky early, got better, and he was a constant threat on offense. Charging, assaulting the basket, really putting the pressure on Golden State. So nice pickup. That's a very good thing. I got to thinking, this is sort of the progression of the Thunder rebuild since Durant left. First year, Samaj Christian's the backup point guard. Last year, Raymond Felton's the backup point guard, and we all thought, oh, how great is Raymond Felton? Look at that. Now Dennis Schröder's the backup point guard, and it's a whole new world.
Yeah, and Raymond Felton looks a lot different in light of Dennis Schröder.
Yes.
Or at least he did in the opener. We'll see how that continues moving forward. But, you talk about the defense, Barry, and frankly, I thought the defense – now, the Warriors are going to make things tough on any defense, but we saw a lot of the same things we saw a year ago when the Thunder played the Warriors in terms of hands getting in passing lanes, passes getting deflected, guys coming up with loose balls. That, to me, said that this team can do some things defensively even without Robertson. So maybe the adjustment that they were able to have in the offseason, the training camp and the preseason work they were able to do, you know, to me, yes, the Warriors made them look silly sometimes. The Warriors are going to make everybody look silly sometimes. But I thought defensively it was a lot of what we thought they could be a year ago, but still doing it without some pretty important pieces to this team.
I agree. Warriors, I think it was 18 turnovers by Golden State, 12 steals for the Thunder. Paul George was back in full force, 4 steals. His hands are everywhere. Patrick Patterson did a nice job deflecting passes and things. So I agree. Now, the one downside to the defense, I don't think Steven Adams was fully healthy. The pick and roll defense was not up to speed. The defensive rebounding was not good. Golden State had a bunch of second chance points. I think Adams was a little bit below standards just because of that sore back. Kevin Looney and Damian Jones, the young big men for the Warriors, had a really productive night. That's not going to happen when Adams is healthy. Of course, the next time they play, well, not the next time, but eventually Golden State's going to have DeMarcus Cousins, and you won't see much of Damian Jones. So yeah. Everything's going to change. But yeah, when Adams gets healthy, that defense is going to be even better.
There's so much you said right there that I want to unpack, but let's start with Paul George, because he was off in the first half offensively. Defensively, he was in it the whole game, and I think that he was really fantastic on the defensive end. But then we saw him catch fire out of halftime. That third quarter was phenomenal. But he's a guy that you can be frustrated with, Barry. Even as he's going, he'll still, you know, occasionally dribble the ball off his foot or his leg or something. It's just he's an interesting superstar in my estimation.
For a guy who does so many little things right, a guy that commits to defense, you know, a guy that's selfless, doesn't really care if Westbrook has the ball 90% of the time. There's so much to like about him. And then what you mentioned, just the carelessness of handling the basketball. We saw it all last year. Just throw a pass that, you know, an 8th grader wouldn't throw. Yeah. And, you know, it's just he's a very unique and odd player. Virtually all of it positive, but there's this little corner that says, "What are you doing, Paul? What are you doing?" So that was the way it was last night. He had a couple of those. I think it was 5 turnovers for Paul in that game.
And probably 4 of them were
just, you know,
not really necessary.
Right, and a couple of just silly. I mean, just it's like he all of a sudden just spaced out. Yeah. But he's such a wonderful player, in other words. And the one thing I came up with watching him that maybe I didn't even realize it last year, should have maybe, he's really a streak shooter. You know, we talk about what a great shooter he is, but he's a streak shooter because he was way off and then he was way on. Yeah. And there in that third quarter, didn't matter how closely guarded he was, didn't matter how close to the basket he was, it was going up and it was going in. Yeah. So, you know, I think we're just going to have to live with the fact that he's a streak shooter. When he's off, just know, and we saw it, Game 6, Utah. He's terrible. Game 5, Utah.
Great.
Phenomenal. So that's what you got to live with. We're used to, you know, it's not fair, but we're going to do it. We compare him to Kevin Durant because that's the shoes he's stepped into. Yeah. Durant's not a streak shooter. Durant just is a great shooter. But George is very valuable, and it's wonderful to have him. He's looking phenomenal.
Did you think that the outside shooting, I mean, it wasn't great. It's not going to be great overall for this team. You know, they just don't have an abundance of super shooters. I mean, if you even Paul George and his streakiness is probably one of their best. Then you got Alex Abrines. Maybe you lump Patrick Patterson in there. What'd you think of the outside shooting? Maybe not just even, you know, how much they hit, but just what you saw out of the outside shooting.
They probably took too many. You know, Jeremy Grant took 4 3-pointers. That's too many. Schröder took 6. He made 2. If he goes 2 of 6 every night, you probably live with it. Yeah. Problems when he goes 1 of 6. You know, they took too many. What was it, 37? They took 37 3-pointers. That's too many. They need to be down in the 20s. Golden State will make you take 3-pointers because they're good on defense, and they don't let a lot of easier shots come through. But when Westbrook comes back, people might say, well, that means they'll shoot more because of his production. But I think the tempo will increase even more when Westbrook gets back, and that's the key to this team. You know, Billy Donovan's talked about it, Sam Presti's talked about it. Tempo and pace is important to this team. They want to run and get easier shots. If you can't make a bunch of three-pointers, if you can't keep up with the Warriors and the Rockets on the 3 game, get out and run, get some easy layups, and try to catch them in 2s.
Barry, you talked earlier about Steven Adams and not looking 100%, which we didn't know until they were practically on the plane the day before this game against the Warriors that he was even questionable, that he had a back issue. But like Steven Adams often does, he plays when he's hurt, maybe plays a lot when he's hurt. But I thought it was interesting as I watched the TV broadcast, and you know, I tell people, I've said it often, I don't often listen to the commentators, but I happen to have the sound up enough during the game, the ESPN, or no, it was TNT broadcast, and one of the guys said something about Steven Adams soon will be an all-star. What do you make of that?
I thought that was interesting. I thought it was great. It was great. I think Chris Webber said it, and it was great compliment. And I applaud the recognition of Adams' development and what an impact player he is. But man, Paul George was an alternate last year. He got in just because somebody was hurt. Making the Western Conference All-Star team is a bear. So I don't see it. I mean,
and the big men too.
I mean, you're talking about Jokic at Denver has never made an All-Star team, and he's a star. There's all kinds of guys. So it's going to be tough. I do think he will get a lot of accolades. I do think people are going to continue to appreciate Steven Adams. But making the All-Star team in the West, I don't think it's going to happen. If he's in the East, he might start. But in the West, it's unlikely.
Something we didn't see, at least in my memory, at all, or if we did, it was very limited, was Steven Adams playing alongside Nerlens Noel, the new big man acquisition. I liked what I saw out of Noel. Didn't play a ton, but seemed very active.
Right.
Really kind of got after it. Do you foresee that happening much, Barry, to see those two bigs together as this team moves forward? Are they going to play some together?
I don't think so. If they do, it's going to be just limited against a certain team or two. You know, when we saw Kanter and Adams sort of flourish in the 16 playoffs in that San Antonio series, that's because San Antonio was playing old-fashioned ball. They had 2 big guys out there. They had Aldridge and a center out there. I don't think teams are going to play. I'm trying to think of somebody in the league that might play that way. I can't think of who it is. If you got Adams and Noel, I mean, your floor spacing is gone. And I don't think it's going to happen. Now, it's possible somebody, you know, maybe Detroit. Blake Griffin, Andre Drummond. You know, you'd put Adams in that case, I guess, on Blake and let him go outside. Blake will go outside and shoot some threes, but maybe something like that. But outside of that, you know, so I'm looking at, I would be surprised if they played 50 minutes together the whole year.
Yeah.
50 minutes. And if it happened, I'd say it's 30 minutes of it might be against Detroit.
Yeah. It's an intriguing idea because, like you say, the last time we saw Adams with another big man, it worked pretty well. But
now, if Stone Cold develops this three-point shot that he's so in love with, okay, let's try it out. But until then, I just don't see it. And here's the other thing. If this was you mentioned that the whole team's just not very good shooters. If you had 2 or 3 really good shooters out there with them, go ahead. Who cares? But if you're out there and Paul George is the only 3-point shooter, I mean, that's going to be a molasses pit.
Yeah, very, very tough. A couple other things before we look ahead here for a minute, before we get out of here. 2 things that have been long-time issues or points of a conversation with this franchise: turnovers and free throw shooting. Turnovers have been fairly bad historically. Free throws were good and then they got bad. Turnovers were actually pretty good against the Warriors. Not many, I think 14 for the Thunder. But free throw shooting, Barry, they missed 13 free throws and lost the game by 8. If they hit half those, we've got a 1-possession game at the end.
24 of 37 shooting, 64% on the foul line. If they just make 75%, they're down 2 with 30 seconds left in the game. This is going to drive me and Billy Donovan crazy. Nothing drives me or nuts than missed foul shots. And what it was, this wasn't Andre Robertson.
No.
This was Patterson goes 2 for 3. George 5 for 8. Adams 5 for 8. Noel 1 for 2. Grant 2 for 4. Now Diallo 0 for 1. The guys who made them: Raymond Felton 4 of 5, and then Schröder was 5 of 6. Everybody besides those guys went 15 of 26.
Yeah.
I mean, that's terrible foul shooting. That's going to get you beat. You know, the Thunder lost a bunch of close games last year. That's part of the equation. 2 years ago, back when the Thunder was still making foul shots, they played way over their head because they won a bunch of close games. That wasn't all Russell Westbrook theatrics. That wasn't all Russell Westbrook heroics. Some of that was making your foul shots in the second quarter and keeping a game tight.
Yeah, you got to get to the point where you're shooting those game winners at the end. Yeah, I mean, to see, I think to me the troubling ones were Adams and Paul George. Two guys that you know are going to be fouled on a pretty regular basis. And Adams has had his struggles, but he's got to continue to get better. And Paul George can't be 5 of 8 on a regular basis. You can't have that sort of shooting out of a guy like Paul George.
It's terrible. And, you know, you look at Golden State, 17 of 18 at the foul line.
Yeah.
So, you know, you're just giving away points. You can give away points against Sacramento. You can't give away points against Golden State.
Yeah. All right, well, let's look ahead for a second. After that Tuesday night opener, again, one of the few teams to open, the Thunder on Tuesday, have a little bit of a long delay before Game 2. That's Friday night at LA against the Clippers, and then they come home for their opener on Sunday. Barry, can they get a couple wins before the week's out?
Well, they can. The Clippers will be nice and feisty. They lost at home to Denver last night, so the Clippers are not a great team. I don't think they're as good as they were last year when they were right at 500. Had a nice year for rebuilding. It's a game the Thunder needs to win, but, you know, Patrick Beverley's playing in all his glory and splendor. So I would assume Westbrook will be motivated to get back for that one. It would be, Westbrook generally plays well in LA, so it would be nice if Westbrook makes his season debut. That would help. But, you know, it'll be a tough game. This is the kind of toss-up game. You know, team not as good as you, but you're on the road, so it could go either way. So be a nice one to get, and you know, and then you come to Sunday and you got the Sacramentos, and so, you know, great chance to be 2-1 after the first week.
This game against the Clippers, to me, Barry, is the type of game in the Western Conference that we're going to be pointing to again and again. And when we get to the end of the year, we're going to have to look at these games that are these toss-up games, because in the West there's this cluster of teams that are all going to be fighting for position. How'd you do against them? Were you able to figure out a way to win on the road, even though it was a road game against a team that's motivated? To me, these are the type of games that are going to be defining. Are you going to be a 3 seed, or are you going to be an 8 seed fighting for your life to get in the playoffs? I think these are where the Thunder really wants to be in position to get home court. They got to win a game like this on Friday night.
Yeah, you know, the West is so bunched. We're not even, you know, I don't think the Clippers are even a threat to make the playoffs, but they're good and competitive. They're like Memphis is when Memphis is healthy. So this is a game where, you know, if you get it, it's sort of one in your belt, because a lot of people will go to LA and lose. But Denver didn't. Denver went and won there. Denver's one of those teams you're trying to stay ahead of. So it's October. It's way too early to get worried about the March standings. But guess what? When April 1st rolls around and everybody's played 77 games, those games in October, they count in that standing. So, you know, look at the West standings last year. Portland 49, Thunder 48, Utah 48, New Orleans 48. Yeah. That's how tight it was, 3 through 6. And then below that was 47, and, you know, Denver won 46, missed the playoffs. So it's very tight. Get the wins that you can get.
Well, and the Thunder's talked a lot about they want consistency. If you're going to be a consistent team, these are the type of games you don't want to just throw them away and say, well, it happened in October, so whatever. 9:30 start on Friday. Then Thunder fans, you get a 6 o'clock start on Sunday. So you can be able to get your nap in before that 9:30 start, another late one on Friday, but then a good game time on Sunday. All right, we'll be back for Thunder Thursday again next week. Hopefully have some sidekicks here, because Thunder's not on the road and Eric will not be either. So be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoman.